And with me right now, right in front of you, is Mr. Michael Horn. How's it going, Michael?
Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm great, Mr. Horn. I'm so glad you're back, my friend. It's been quite some time.
It has been at least several months.
You think it's been several months? I thought it's been an entire year.
Sounds right. That's several months.
Well, several, yeah, months, years. It's really all the same thing, anyways, right? So, Michael, I gotta ask you, what have you been up to?
Oh, goodness. Well, the usual. I try to get blogs out, at least film. Send you a link to the trailer if you want. Do it at any point. That'd be great for 2 minutes or so, or a portion thereof. Um, and pardon me, being hoarse, getting out into the woods up here, and that's always a refreshing change pace. The energies of the world are not always conducive to peace. So getting be in the midst of some trees, that settles me. Good. So we've been up to that, taking drives a few places, getting into LA every now and then. Uh, Nothing international for a while. Kind of the usual. What have you been up to?
Oh, just doing the show. I have relocated a
Where are you?
while now. Yes, I'm actually closer to Los Angeles. I don't think I ever told you that. I'm only about an hour or less away. Well, realistically, 35 minutes on a good day, but you know how traffic is, so basically an hour these days. But hey, next time you're around, Mr. Horn, let me know. I'd love to go see you wherever you are.
Sure. What part of California are you in?
Oh, I'm in Huntington Beach,
Yeah, Orange County. Yes.
Orange County, right?
Yeah. Okay. Shouldn't be too hard to do. Uh,
Exactly. And by the way, Michael, I just wanted to also tell you how much I appreciate you being here on the program as long as you've been here. We've been doing shows together for quite some time, as you know, and I've always admired you. I've always listened to you, even though I don't agree on everything you say. But then again, we don't agree on a lot of things at times in life in general. But that's what makes us human. But Mr. Horn, I got to say though, I've been listening to you for quite some time thanks to the AM dial and through other media you've done for. I don't think I've even really told you that, but I definitely do appreciate you being here as long as you've been here, my.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for. I like the fact that we are not either diametrically opposed or hopelessly parallel, where there's no possibility of delving into and finding a few sparks of opposition here and there, and trying to understand each other's opinions and positions. So I'm all for that. I find it more interesting than the usual softball approach, where people, just are going to let you ramble on, and they might, just never give a hint of their own perspective or why they don't think something you're saying is accurate or true or what have you. And I think it's highly necessary. And I'm sure that tonight, your audience will find plenty to disagree with me about, no matter what side of the spectrum they're on, and anything. So here's to us. Here's our glass of
Absolutely,
water.
and that's why I appreciate you as much as I do, Mr. Horn. You are very different from the rest of the folks out here in this sort of scene, even though you don't exactly. You bear no sort of affiliation. You don't claim any affiliation with the UFO crowd, and that's one of the reasons why I like you. I'm also an outsider as much as you are. We're both liked and disliked, which I love. Yes.
Good. Yeah, I've got some strong opinions about the UFO world, so maybe you delve into some of that too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And before we begin, Mr. Horn, remind the audience how long you've been at it about the Billy Meier context.
Yeah, I started the research 47 years ago, and I did my own first live presentation, 7, I think, and My own first production was in 2000 and 2004, and I've done 4 or 5, film documentary type things, all told in the time I've been involved in it, and, yeah, it hasn't been exclusively that I've looked at nothing else, but there was nothing else that warranted such, dedicated, pursuit as the Meier material.
And nothing else, just the Meyer material, everybody else irrelevant.
People have, there's contributions to things, and Meier case, even before I was involved with it, of course, had already started to create controversy, certainly in Europe, and then by late 70s, early 80s, other countries, the US as well. But the thing is, just to be blunt about it, there's no other evidence that has been independently analyzed and authenticated as being of, certainly determined to be, of extraterrestrial manufacture. Now, people might say Boogosphere, which is just fairly recent, like, or whatever. Yeah, even in the Meier material, they say that that is not has not been manufactured by the let's say the surface dwellers here, the terrestrial humankind as we know it,
Right.
and enormously ancient and at the open that'd be dangerous. Other than that, we have a lot of anecdotal stuff. We have fuzzy videos. We have clearer videos. We have photos. There's no evidence yet that, in my opinion, photographic evidence that compares with Meier's pre-digital analog photos, films, video, and all of that. So, but it's also the other, even more important evidence that compelled me to say, well, I don't know why people waste their time with the rest. Uh,
Understood. And many researchers out there, many authors out there, many different people in this sort of circuit that I've talked to over the years, everybody has an opinion on the Meyer contacts. There's never anybody out there who doesn't have a very strong emotional reaction. Once I do present that question about Meyer and what they think, it's always it's never a no opinion thing. They always have something to say about it. And with that said, who is Billy Edward Albert Meyer? And in your opinion, how has a one-armed man from Switzerland, of all places, remained at the center of the world's most enduring extraterrestrial claim for over 70 years, Mr.
Actually, yeah, the contacts have been going on, contacts for 84
Oh my
years.
goodness, I stand corrected.
No, it's okay. Since he was a 5-year-old boy. Now, you see, the thing is this: when we talk about other UFO cases, we're talking about third, fourth, fifth hand information, anecdotal claims, and inferior quality evidence when there is evidence. I don't know of anything even remotely comparable. So I have, of course, butted heads with people in so-called ufology, which I think right now is an irrelevant field, to be honest with you. UFO, UFOs, it's irrelevant. The way this stuff is handled, strictly disinformation, distraction. Another government hearing, another congressperson, oh, I've seen this evidence. It's, oh my gosh. That's Representative Burchett or any other kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, who had originally given me a thumbs up on Twitter when he saw some of Meyer's stuff, and I've called his office. Look, I've gone through, as you probably know since we've spoken, I've tried to contact every possible so-called UFO researcher, almost to a person they will respond, because this is a cash cow field. The least qualified people make the most noise in so-called ufology. They will not, certainly won't come, and they won't say, "Hey, interview me, I'll give you a real conversation." To his credit, the person that I interviewed months ago had a conversation with is a NASA physicist, and he was, we had a 2-hour discussion. He has, he's not a UFO guy. He's interested in the topic, and we got into. He finds the Meyer case quite interesting. there's things in there I think that are upsetting to him. But we had a great conversation because, number one, he's more qualified as a professional, as a scientist, than any of the babbling idiots in ufology. Why do I say that? Bottom line, where are the people in ufology dealing with the crises that are occurring in our world that Billy Meier has been forewarning since he was 9 years old? It isn't the UFOs that are important. It's the eye candy. It's great. Fantastic. Hundreds. We've got books with 600 and some of Meier's photos. They're incomparable. But people never really important. If these contacts are real, what's the reason for them? Not for us to chase lights in the sky, for me or anybody else to have a career, whatever it's worth, as a UFO something or other, investigator, expert researcher, blah, blah, blah. Who knows anything about this? Sure. You know, I and other people, I've got people that come and post on my blog that know so much about this material. Billy has published over 900, we just got the 928th contact report where he is still having to this day conversations face to face. They're not conversations about UFOs. Sometimes he mentions what are called the earth foreigners, the other beings that are here and have been here subterranean, and they were prior to that more terrestrially on the surface. They have their craft that we have been observing for a long time. Most UFO sightings that are not secret military are from these people. There are several groups of them. But none of the people in ufology know anything about it unless they're following Meier's information. They won't talk about it. They won't refer to Meier because they want to peddle useless books and hold useless UFO experts, which are expos, pardon me, which are lots of fun. You can go and socialize with other people who don't know anything.
And hold on, Mr. Horn, I got to stop you there and tell you, we like names here, by the way. So who are these individuals that you're referring to? We would like to know them by name. The audience does.
Sure. Well, let's see. Start with some people who blocked me are like
who blocked you?
Yeah, Stephen Greer.
Oh my!
There's another guy. There's so many people. Okay, if we can name anybody, okay, I'll name names that pop in my mind in so-called Stephen Bassett, Richard Dolan, Nolan, Gary Nolan.
Wait, hold on. I got to ask you about our friend Stephen Bassett. Kind of a regular here on the program. I've talked to him for ages now. Both of you in an alternative world would be like best friends, in my opinion. Both of you have been at it for a long time, so I find it hard to believe that there is any sort of animosity towards one another. And I know I have brought up the Meier contacts to him, and he pretty much disregarded it rather quickly.
See, look, it goes back for me to about 2004. I think I've got the date about right. He was starting off with some Hollywood UFO thing, which I think he's still involved with. And he had a presentation or two already, so-called X conferences, where people were coming and airline people, whatever, and talking about their sightings. And the same thing with Stephen Greer, to whom I've offered publicly in about the same year. I offered the Meier material, wouldn't even look over the public thing, wouldn't even look over, acknowledge or tell me to get lost, just stared straight ahead. So Stephen Bassett, I said, Stephen, this one encounter was at the LAX Sheraton Hilton at I think it was a whole life, and there were UFO things going on. I ran into him. I said, and this was my innocence, thinking the man was interested in the truth. I said, hey, Stephen, I've got the Billy Meier material. Tons. Well, it isn't time yet for that. We have to send faxes to Washington. I said, what are you talking? Well, we've got to get the government. I said, wait a minute. Why are you concerned with the government? Never get. I said, faxes to Washington. I've got hundreds of transcripts and many more hundreds of photos. I can do 4-hour presentations on this. People have nothing. What don't
Wow.
you want? And no, actually, I spent that day. I spent 4 hours with him, and at another time, I think it was 2 or 3 hours, because I really thought I could prevail on a guy who says he's all about disclosure. I'm sorry. We are living in a time right now when the lunatics in our government that Billy Meier first spoke about, 1947, pointing to the current, wasn't of course then, the current president as a megalomaniacal Hitler-like dictator. None of the people in ufology want to rattle that cage. None of the people, they probably don't even know. None of them want to speak about the fact that this country, is probably going to be, I don't know the years, it will be utterly destroyed from coast to
By the way, hold on. I want to get into that, but I just want to quickly rewind really quickly here. Go back to Mr. Bassett, though. I have a lot to say about him. However, to keep
Mhm.
things short and sweet and simple, Mr. Horn, what is the over/under that Mr. Bassett could possibly be someone who works as some sort of asset for the government itself?
A Bassett asset? With Bassett hounding the government? Um, well, I don't know about that kind of thing. I don't think it's, let's say,
Some people
completely.
have made that those claims that he might be a Fed of some sorts. After all the years of doing this and living so closely to in Washington, there.
Well, the thing is that it's one wonders what Bassett's, support system, how does he pay for his day-to-day, all this stuff? He's I don't even think he really gives much of, he doesn't go out and, I haven't seen a video from him. Look, a lot of people in this field may be getting, whether they know where it's coming from or not, little help from the powers that be to keep the disinformation, distraction, and utterly useless, as a matter of fact, completely dangerous distraction going, so that people who are not prone to wanting to think as it is already, they don't want to think, but that they don't trouble themselves when this kind of information, which is unique in ufology, is brought forward. So Mr. Bassett, in my opinion, and I've written this, I've sent it out, I have no problem. I would discuss it with him anywhere and any time, just so we could hear him say, well, it really time for that yet again. This is all BS. I mean, really, this, I'll just say this, and maybe we get to it, maybe we don't. We've had a couple of elections in which about 150 to 160 million Americans cast their votes for absolute lunatic psychopaths, no matter which party they were casting their, when about half the country, that is mostly, is probably 60, 70% of the country might be voting it, when over half the country is willing to go and actually vote for any lunatic without saying, hey, excuse me, I don't want a psychopath. I'd like to get somebody that doesn't speak word salad, someone who isn't there patting himself on the back all the time, the great this and the great that, and I'm the greatest, and you're the greatest, we'll make it great. I mean, really, this is what we've settled for? So ufology now, Trump's, he's going to make sure the UFO thing. What kind of a distorted reality are people willing to live with for as long as their lives last, which is becoming more and more of a, let's say, an open question.
Oh, Mr.
This,
Horn, are you telling me that you're not excited for possible disclosure?
I love Michael. It's great. There's never going to be something from any of the parties that babble uselessly about it through disclosure. The only thing left to disclose, sorry, and I welcome, I would come on your show anytime somebody wants to argue with me, tell me that this is not the most important. development, discovery, and thing to be disclosed in human history. Proven contacts with space traveling, time traveling extraterrestrials, and we want a government or somebody else to tell us this is this is impotency. This is an impotent population. I'm sorry. I don't mean that it's not a violent one. We can't go out and fight with each other and fight with other people because we think that's some sort of potency. It isn't. It's impotence. We do not have the skills and the potency to deal with the truth, to discuss it, to go merit of this, the merit of that, without wanting to punch people out, bomb them, kill school children, have a president that says, we'll kill them, we kill them, they're dead. I mean, literally, and he bears the responsibility
By the way, do
for
you
the
think,
murders.
Mr. Horn, do you think there's an issue in America where we are incredibly, extremely violent, or hypersexualized? Pretty much our senses have been overloaded. I feel like most of us here in society, and myself included, I'm probably part of the problem, as we all are, but I kind of feel like everybody in America is kind of insane compared to most of the world. I mean, people around the world are insane too, but here in America,
Yeah,
we're way more violent. Most of the things consumed out there, documentary wise, things on Netflix, things, popular media, the most popular media that's being consumed by most Americans, and it's a larger percent of women who also consume this material, not just men, but a lot of the serial killer stuff, a lot of crime, murder, all that sort of thing is very, very popular in America. I'm just wondering what exactly happened to America to allow a pedophile basically to become the president of the United States.
I couldn't have said it better, and I'm glad you're not shy about saying it. It's the foundation of this country, literally. And Meier publishes histories people know nothing about, not just about extraterrestrials and their lives, but about different countries. And this one, George Washington, the so-called father of our country, murdered French emissary, walking forward with surrender to make peace. He personally murdered them. This is the foundation of the country. And all of this sweet talk. Hey, there are people here that believe it because we have good people here too. I mean, I'm not an American hater. The governments and the politicians, the best politicians that money can buy, they've been bought out big time.
Big
And
time.
that's known. I used to learn about this when I was 10 years old in Chicago with the Democrat Party and guys that would come around, the precinct captains who would come try to grease the family's palm to make sure they were voting for Mayor Daley, etc. I mean, this is a corruption that many people don't know. They don't know they're involved in it. When you just said Netflix, my wife and I, we try to find things that are don't have the violence or diluted somehow, maybe just a little funny or whatever.
Sure.
Hey, I, because I don't want to be a hypocrite about it. I will, if something pops up and I'm seeing one of those 40-second things on an MMA fight or something, I'll watch it. I like martial arts. I was raised and partaken in a lot of that stuff. Never anything,
Well,
but I
same
like.
here, Mr. Horn. I've been boxing and doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and judo for since I was a little kid.
I started doing judo and jujitsu when I was about 10, maybe 10 to 12. I moved on, etc. We
Well,
have
well,
that.
yeah, I like watching fights. Don't get me wrong. It's kind of wired into being a human being. Actually, fighting is a natural thing. Unfortunately, that's what we are as our species.
Well, it's in the Meier material. Interesting. There were two primary genetic manipulations
Yeah.
made to our distant and in the Syrian sun over 22 million years ago. So it says, according to this material. I won't go into all the steps involved.
Sure.
Basically, our ancestors had two genetic manipulations made by their so-called overlords so that they would not have the 1,500-year or so lifespan that their overlord slash manipulator creators had when they were, let's say, adjusted to made into willing and efficient fighting machines to protect these people who had pursued a path of kind of imbalanced positivity. They genetically engineered out of themselves their fighting spirit, got that far loony, and then because positive and negative, there are attractions to
Right.
things, and they started to attract some highly negative. They did genetic manipulations to a portion of their population. They increased the propensity for violence and aggression, and they reduced lifespan down to 100 years or less. And that's what virtually everyone on Earth ultimately inherited over many, many, many thousands of years.
And that will make the
So,
most sense to me, by the way, that we are wired that way, as we are naturally wired to all kinds of different things, like being hunter gatherers, those being left out of the pack. You essentially, if you do leave the tribe, you're pretty much essentially doomed, and they will
mhm,
die. And we're seeing that in real time in terms of politics, sports teams, a tribalism that goes on. And Mr. Horn, by the way, where exactly do you stand politically? And I hope you don't mind. I hope you do answer it, though. Some people don't have the testicular fortitude to be honest at times, say
please,
where they stand.
sure, sure, sure. I am apolitical, meaning I don't partake in any partisan politics because wh- one of the things that I really got very interested in fire material
Sure.
was the idea of neutrality, which is not indifference. And neutrality doesn't mean you do not stand for things. You do not have a partisan kind of
I
consciousness.
can understand that. And the reason
Okay.
why I ask is we're very much the same. I'm someone who try to give people the benefit of the doubt, and actions speak louder than words. And I've known since I was really young. This is pre 9/11 and going forward. I knew even before 9/11, right before that happened, that our government was deeply corrupt, and I had zero faith in any politician. And all these years later, fast forward through time, here we are in 2026, Mr. Horn, and I still have zero faith in any politician. I think we need to get rid of all of them. We kind of need to clear house and start fresh with newer ideas. The Democrats are corrupt. The right wingers, the Republicans are corrupt, unfortunately. And though everything is pretty bad, Mr. Horn, I just have zero faith. And I think the next sort of a political party, if ever one comes along, Mr. Horn, I hope they have no sort of interest in foreign governments pretty much commanding and taking hold of them, being compromised by any foreign government. Unfortunately, that's kind of what we have currently right now in America.
Course. Yeah, I think that what we need, and if we survive ourselves past the next couple 100 years, which is actually doubtful with I on the scene, but if we are fortunate for enough people to survive who will recognize that they will never indulge in partisan politics, delusional religions, pardon me, somebody else's sacred cow, so to speak, and will look to be guided by the eternally valid laws and recommendations of creation, of life, of that which is creation, not deities that were either completely imaginary or based on extraterrestrials who are here, who are human beings, simply more technologically evolved. If we find enough people would discover, it's in Meier's 60 books, he's always writing about the true laws and recommendations of creation, we would kick all this crap to the curb. We wouldn't allow it. There'd be no profit in it. As a matter of fact, we'd move away from this profit-oriented thing that keeps people at each other's throats as well. And we would learn to live in true peace, love, freedom, harmony, all those good things that, we talk about that we don't understand. We only get the rarest of glimpses of because the agenda is and has long been to pit people at each other's throats for the benefits of a minority that, for some truly insane reasons, want to rule and control everything, meaning they have very little genuine self-control, self-knowledge. That isn't what interests them. They want control over. And that's something that human beings have to get over too, if we are to survive. And we may not. We're not the only civilization that has emerged in all of the universe. And we're not the only one that could, and those that did destroy us. See, if people got away from this idiocy of ufology, oh, we're going to present disclosure. You can't imagine what kind of beings are there. Yeah, stick that right up your nose because it's irrelevant. And you can't prove it. You don't know what it means. And it's taking us away from finding out who we are, what our self responsibilities are, what kind of guidance we really get from more evolved human beings who are not stupid enough to play this, not coming down here to meet with us. Oh, there'll be some that'll show up, maybe. They won't be that much more evolved than we are, and they may not all be bringing the most peaceful stuff either. So partisanship, delusional beliefs that have just absolutely insane, anti-scientific, anti-logical. We might want to start getting along with each other. And that means there's a lot of self-examination to be done every day of our lives so that we see what are we doing? What are we bringing? People that we are, attacking, ready to attack. What is that about?
Right.
Why? You know, it's so a lot of people say, let's change the channel. That's just boring shit. Well, sorry. We're on the verge of two civil wars in the country that Billy first predicted in 1981. And the destruction of this country in a war with Russia, China, and other allies, which he's been talking about since. Because it's not theoretical. It's not that he was told a bunch of stuff. He was taken to see it. And we have proved beyond any doubt that this nice little guy, Billy Meier, not only been with these people, a space traveler, but a time traveler, because otherwise there's no way he could accurately be publishing and describing events years and decades before they happen without error, details, and the warnings that some events may be avoidable or not. People of Earth, pay attention. No. What is it now? 28 attempts on his life from so-called human beings who are so threatened by a man just trying to say, hey, folks, let's learn how life works. Here's some folks, they come in these things. No, they're not coming down to sit and talk to you or abduct you or anything else. They bring peace at a distance. They help with information so that we can disseminate it, so that we could learn. And as you said, instead, we end up with a pedophile as the president of the United States who, like other presidents, as soon as the heat gets on for one thing or another, we're going to bomb somebody. We're going to war with these degenerate Persian Iranians who've had a culture going for almost 3,000 years. But we've been groveling around, kill anybody and destroy and invade people who've done nothing to us. Nobody who's ever come and bombed us from another country like that. We do it. We've done it over 200 times, 200 times in the last, I don't know, 100 something years. It's just crazy.
And by the way, Mr. Horn, do you think Israel has compromising material on Donald Trump?
I think it's not only in Trump. The people that the Israelis primarily have not bought off are ones that they felt they didn't have to waste money on. They had blackmail material. This has been common. I heard about this stuff when I was, and I'll be also honest, the most offensive human beings that I didn't know that I ever met were people at a trade fair in Chicago circa 1960. I'm a teenager, go there. Who were they? They were the Israeli contingent.
Really?
Oh my! I'm telling you, it's stayed with me
this long.
Yeah, 66 years later, I'm going. Oh, those arrogant, belligerent, entitled people I ever met. There was just some, and I knew nothing before that about them. And I wasn't an anti-Semite, I can tell you that. But I tell you, after meeting and seeing the way classical Zionist, and let's say Zionist, because I have a couple of Israeli friends. One guy's a martial artist,
Sure.
one psychologist, book thing I was doing. Nice people. The Zionistic Israelis, um, just a breed unto themselves. And Billy Meier was warned about it.
He was warned about that. I didn't know Meyer covered that, but it is very interesting the way things are playing out. And
Oh my
you did mention religion, and yes, what's going on is a holy war, and of course, we are involved in that. It's just kind of ironic that we have Christians fighting a war for Israel, basically, and most of the fundamental Israelis out there, those that are deep into religion, deep into their religion, they believe that Jesus is basically running away in a boiling pit of sewage, essentially. That's what the Talmud says about Jesus Christ. So I find it ironic that a lot of the Christians want to go and die for Israel, even though those folks actually hate Christ, and Christians, they love Jesus, but people they're fighting for actually hates Christ. So I find that kind of ironic, Mr. Horn.
Well, let's have a little more controversy. First, I'll say these things that are in the Meyer material. No human being ever existed, walked the earth years ago, named or called Christ. Now, this is an interesting to me because a friend of mine pointed out, because this is it. There is something in the Meyer material called Talmud Emmanuel. Emmanuel, Isaiah 7:14, Matthew 1:23, and his name shall be called Emmanuel. Oh, Jesus. New Testament, after that, is using that term, which wasn't invented until years after this man no earth. Now, again, according to my material. So when we say nobody named Christ everyone, well, what would be an easy way to show that that's accurate or lie? Well, as you and I and everybody know, going back even hundreds of years BC, there are biographies of famous emperors, kings, warriors, queens, you name it, biographies by actual biographers who lived in the areas where these events were going on, wherever they were, and who wrote biographies. You'll find multiple biographies. There's Caesar and this king, there are all tons. Try to find one genuine, not a religious book. Oh, this is the gospel. Forget that. We've had a skeptic who was skeptical of Meyer's discovery of what's called the Talmud. Did a year's came out and said, well, wait a minute. This resolves over 300 inconsistencies in the book of Matthew that didn't even come to the attention of scholars until after Billy Meier published it. This resolves all this stuff in Matthew. This is the real writing of this man. Emmanuel was the name of this man. Oh, there's things in there that are similar to Old Testament.
Wow.
Because the things are based on that. But about the biography.
Yeah.
I mean, and I've asked people who are hardcore Christians, send me a link. Let's just be honest. Send me to biography of a Jesus Christ person. So far, I think it's safe to say none such exists. Now, wait a minute. Isaiah 7:4, yeah. Matthew 1:23, yeah. There was a man, and he was crucified, and he was a great teacher, and he, and according to even ex India, survived the crucifix, migrated there, lived to be about 110, died buried there. He had married an Indian woman. He bore him, quote unquote, numerous descendants, one of whom was Joseph, who brought the teaching that had been taken down by the true scribe who was not betrayer. The scribe was Judas Iscariot, not Judah Iscariot. This is in the Meier material. This is one of the reasons that Meier, in the 28 attacks on his life, 3 of them were from the Mossad. And in the Talmud of Manuel, where this true teacher, who we would recognize, otherwise we'd say, well, this must have been Jesus. Yeah, well, he does, and some people may be relieved to find out, foretells the complete and utter destruction of Israel after he has excoriated the den of vipers and these terrible people who corrupt the truth and are only interested in stealing from the people and controlling them. That's in the Meier material attributed to this man from the real true writings of the time. Who can check that out for themselves? This isn't about UFOs, folks. If you keep on worrying about this idiocy of ufology and the babbling fools who have no evidence, none, try and find some people with even 3, 4, 6. I've got a bunch of photos on. I've got more, hundreds of them, and films and video and metal samples and sound recordings. They have nothing. Let alone, they don't have 60,000 pages of information bequeathed to humankind that we don't destroy ourselves with every conceivable aspect of human life and guidance, not threats, guidance on how it might be the best way to live, but we have to find out for ourselves. That's what we're dealing with, not ufology, not these profiteering bozos that suck up the bandwidth of the phony politicians. Oh, yes, what is it, Representative Luna? I've talked to people in her office. I send her stuff. Burchett, I send him stuff. I talk to people in his. They don't want to know. They don't want to be inconvenienced. And if they looked into this and they find out that this isn't friendly to any of the religions because they've all been corrupted, last thing they're going to disclose. Don't kid yourself. You want truth, you may be able to find it here, and you can dig through it, folks, and you can say, hey, I think that's so. I prove it or disprove it. I don't buy it. Fine. But you should know about it because your life really may depend on it, literally. The warnings about what's coming to this poor, miserable country run by psychopaths, megalomaniacs, child molesters. Billy published in 1958 the warnings about the elite, the pedophiles, who would hunt children, children would be hunted for their organs, all the different things that, suddenly it's all, the Epstein files. Meier's been warning about that for almost 70 years.
It is interesting, though, some of those files and how accurate some of those emails were, especially one, Jeffrey Epstein, also predicting the Iran kickoff, by the way. By the way, he mentioned in an email, if you don't know, that he's talking about Donald saying if he is cornered, he would start a war, essentially, with Iran. And he he was right.
The war plans for Iran, according to Billy, have started at least back in 2006. These are things that aren't just the, let's say, the creation alone of Donald Trump, the now cornered rat who's going to try. Literally, this is going to be one of the terrible things. World War. I mean, we have on the site a 1982 radio interview in Switzerland by an English-speaking guy who asked Billy about World War III. Billy tells him, yes, it's not avoidable. Well, who will be involved in that? Well, there's the UK and Russia. There's Iraq, Iran, and Israel. Really? Well, can we? No, this will happen. He's seen this since he's a child. Tried to get people to wake up, but no, we want to put psychopaths, make America great. I'm the greatest. I have where and how? That man, Trump, if you didn't know that he was a pig, if you go online and find that interview with Howard Stern, where Stern refers to Ivanka, Trump's daughter, as a piece of ass, and Trump agrees with him, that man should be taken out and sent in all latrines in any given city, clean them.
Right. Yes. Most people wouldn't talk about their grown or underage child, daughter, what have you, in a sexual kind of way. Most of the
Oh,
time,
well,
people would
that's nothing.
never. Yeah, people would
No.
never go that way. And by the way, I heard that interview, as I heard many interviews with Donald Trump and Howard Stern, many of which I found rather amusing. But at the time, he wasn't the president.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to defend him. I'm just saying he's made some off-color remarks about his daughter, which are
It does
very
that.
bizarre. I don't know. Normal people don't act that way, though.
Human being that is a man with no character, no integrity, no respect, speaks that way about his daughter. Let alone, frankly, you don't go on. Yes, with Howard Stern, he might be, it's boys' night all the time
Yeah,
with
but you
these.
don't. Not your own daughter. I mean, that's a little.
I'm sorry,
I said, but not your own daughter. I mean, come on.
or his. Don't do it. I mean, just we have certain boundaries,
Right.
but that pig doesn't. That decaying bag of crap that is completely out of control, who will set the world on fire rather than go down, inevitably going. He's going to take the country and the rest.
And this is why I'm concerned because Jeffrey Epstein was not telling any lies in those emails when he was talking about Donald Trump, who also described Trump being one of the most awful people, no good single cell in his body. Is something a pedophile said about Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, about Donald Trump, rather, which is insane, Mr. Horn.
Well, we could say it's hearsay, but I heard the other thing, and you heard it, and that's enough for me to know that this is a character who cares about nothing but himself at the cost and expense of any, everything, and buddy,
Pretty
right?
much.
Daughter. So to those poor deluded MAGA people who have to go on to slogan after slogan, and they think that that's the equivalent of substance, what are they going to do? Right?
It
Their butt.
happens. It happens.
So, you know, people turn. Why are there cults of personality anyhow? Why don't people have lives of their own?
Well, Mr.
When I
Horn, it's the media, by the way. It's the I hate to say, but it's the older generations. Not all of them, but a lot of them have fallen victim of being the original sort of guinea pigs, the first that actually was completely brainwashed by the media, the television. And it doesn't matter if you are a leftist or a right wing kind of person. Any media that you consume wholeheartedly, some of them, those that don't know how to do any thinking of their own, they fall victim to this. They go back to being a very tribal minded, Mr. Horn, as we talked about earlier. And at that point, you're sort of so submerged by that party that you start believing every single thing they say as if it's gospel. And that's when we get into very dangerous territories when people start believing everything that they see on television. It's insane. The only real way to get news about what's going on in America is being outside of America,
yeah,
unfortunately, because we are just sort of hammered down with endless propaganda. It's the reason why back when there was the Iraqi freedom, that sort of operation going back then, we saw the kickoff essentially when we went and invaded. There was footage everywhere, but with Israel and Iran, there is zero footage, and it doesn't really paint a accurate or a good picture for America, where there's a pretty much a blockade of reporting of what's going on out there. It doesn't look good, in my opinion.
it's we have crossed this point where certain things are no longer well, they're inevitable. They're no longer stoppable. And the unfortunate part of it is that, look, I sometimes go a little crazy myself saying, hey, what the hell is wrong with me? Well, Billy Meier is not the first person to be in contact with the people who are trying to help us not destroy ourselves. It goes back thousands of years to earlier prophets, Enoch, Elijah, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Emmanuel, and even Muhammad, because the whole thing about him was distorted. Marry 9-year-old girls. He was a champion of women and their rights. and his task was to stem the rise of the church, not enslave humankind. So we don't have beliefs. No one said, "Well, do you believe that?" I don't know. Seems reasonable to me based on the history of the. Remember the thing, the Crusades and the Inquisitions, and all? Could it be that crazy things that get started and they create saviors and demons and saints and angels and all the rest, and you're going to hell if you wherever that is if you don't believe this? There are no beliefs in this material. None. People, do you believe Billy Meier? Do you believe in you? No, I don't have to believe. I've found that what I can test, what I can either verify or dispute, they've told the truth over and over again. And the evidence, well, I've seen enough of the evidence, the analyses, these are not hoax. So something's happening. And if all of this is the creation of a one-armed, basically resourceless in terms of technology and money, man living in the boonies, raising, a family with 3 children as a night watchman, renovating an entire farmhouse in his spare time with one. I mean, if you want to give him this too, okay, he's obviously, beyond being human. But he said, no, he was supposedly asked by Steven Spielberg, Billy, how do you get those UFOs? Well, Stephen, when the ship comes, I take the camera and I press the button. That's how amazing. We are so here, Michael. I mean, you and I, we have a great little interview, our discussion. We're not, more than likely, we're not going to get 2 million views and people even arguing about it publicly. I've been on shows like where we've gotten like 1 million views in a couple interviews I did with Guy Clayton Morris and Redacted, who's got a lot of visibility, and he's put out like 10 different endorsements of Billy Meier's prophetic information on his channel. I got to take my hat off to him. But for the most part, this stuff is very contained, highly suppressed. We try and find us on Google. You'll see, 3 pages later, the only really still ongoing genuine contact case you can't find. Because this government, our intelligence services, our greedy elite and all the rest, and not just so afraid that they can't control the world and destroy it in the process, because some man who's speaking about, well, if you want to truly be a people that can go get out of your solar system eventually and go to the stars, you're going to have to make peace with yourself. Because what Billy has said is, based on what the extraterrestrials, you get a little base on the moon and you do some stuff on Mars, but you're not getting out of yourself. You'll be lucky to survive because AI is coming. You've prematurely pulled that genie out of the bottle. It's already smarter than most of you, and it will destroy you.
Well, so you're saying, Mr. Billy, saying that will be the end of us, end of civilization. AI will be accredited to that. Is that what he's saying?
It said that is a high possibility. If the next world war alone was going to kill billions, that isn't enough. Then the AI, and it's in 1987 warnings in the Hanok Prophecies. We've got them about computerized weapons will do this. Computerized weapons, they will no longer be able to be controlled. They will turn against humankind. And several other places, human beings don't know what they've done with this. This technology will enslave and then ultimately take humankind to the point of extermination. It won't need us. And right now, you see, we're so immature. Take no joke. Oh, I can make a lot of money with AI. It's going to help me write and think for me, because we already have a country that's way down on the list of education. People have been dumbed down here such pathetic levels. They can barely, so many people can no longer hold a face-to-face conversation. If you're not on a screen going, yeah, what's up? You're not going to get much conversation. Yeah, sure, they're educated people.
That's a little odd, by the way, but that is very true. I do live in a coastal town, across a lot of different walks of life. And yes, a lot of people of all ages, not just it's not exclusive to just the younger generation. I've seen older people too. A lot of them are socially inept, Mr. Horn.
And it spreads because when certain people here and there become socially inept, just as if you were having an idea coming alive in different places, when you've got people now who are addicted to their handheld, devices,
Right.
and they live this way, then that starts necessitating others. Well, if I'm going to want to talk to them, meet now, we've got to. Oh, this is so convenient. I guess it's a good idea. Not going to change that. We're down that road, and according to this material, the Playaran extraterrestrials that Billy with had their own problems with AI until they were able to get a hold of it and basically destroy it. They do, and subsequently have created a lot of android type things where there is no possibility of the androids taking on the negative self-determination. And we have to realize that in our world, all these android robot things, they're created by human beings who are highly ambitious and not always moral and harbor all sorts of funny things that these
Sure.
things now are smart enough to recognize are the components and that they can work with this kind of, we're in trouble. And it will be, and it's not stoppable uh, any longer as many things are. And I did it. It's a funny thing. I put out a video 2006 conversation I had that year, or I had a conversation either 6 or 5. Billy Meier talked. I asked him, "Say, Billy, was the Iraq War fundamentally about oil?" Thinking he's going to go, "Of course it is. What are you?" Oh, mentally, it's about your. If things go a certain way, you may as well roll cigarettes for money, which we are approaching. And when he spoke about the cashless society, and when he spoke about the biochipping in 1958 that will first be instituted by the US and then the EU, and when he talks about the dispossession of the American people and the government being turning the police and military against the partly heavily who will be dispossessed. That's what the dry runs, these things in the cities where ISIS turned loose. Oh, we're going to get all these gang members out, and instead they're killing people, women and people, men, children, whatever, because they're hiring oftentimes lots of brutes from the military who will learn how to be. You don't get that. You don't bring that into the society. Oh, we do, because we know that eventually this population can turn against us. So let's see how it goes if we start slapping them around a bit. Let's see what we have to work on to make sure we can control them. Donald Trump is not your savior, you brain dead people that want to wave your little flags and MAGA this and that. He's a megalomaniacal, aggressive, greedy, I won't use
Well, some will
any
say
other
he's
word.
going to go down as the worst president we've ever had in America.
Well, he's one of the worst human beings we've ever had.
Some
So
can
neither.
argue that, yes.
And a lot of people, I've got friends who were cheerleaders and still were. I've got friends who showed Meyer's material to when Colin Powell was in government. One person who had to get to him, and I said, "This about this Iraq War and what's going to come and all this stuff." He I'm not convinced. I said, "I'm not here to convince you. You could just start thinking for yourself and read this. Nice
Um,
people didn't do it."
and as I told you before, Mr. Horn, the Billy Meier prophecies of sorts was always a main interest of mine, amongst other things, but that was the main thing that pulled me in. And I always found it pretty interesting, some of the things that he predicted a long time ago. And
Yeah.
following the timeline and just reading some of the material even further, I was pretty shocked at how accurate some of it was. And Mr. Hornet, to tie all these sort of things back together again really quickly here, we first initially started talking about disclosure, now very hot sort of a topic. People are excited. Government also already registered a website. Everyone's happy, everyone's cheering, everyone's clapping. And
Sure.
we have a lot of other people out there that have been going back to the whole spiritual, religious aspect. And I do have a clip here of one Tucker Carlson. I have two clips. The first one I just wanted to get your thoughts and opinions on as we sort of hunkered down and wrote throughout this interview. We're winding down, but I do have these two clips left amongst a few other things I want to ask you, Mr. Horn. And I thank you being gracious with your time here. We love when you are on here, Mr. Horn. I think the audience will agree, but let's keep the good times rolling. And here is Tucker Carlson talking about these entities and possibly being demonic. So let's let it play.
It's my personal belief, based on a fair amount of evidence, that they're not aliens. They've always been here. And I do think it's spiritual. That's my view. So, and again, it's not provable, but based on the evidence, I think
I'm with you.
Absolutely. If the U.S. government has in fact had direct contact with these beings, whatever they are, I've already told you what I think they are, and has entered into some sort of agreement with them, which is the claim of informed people, I would say. Whether they're right or wrong, I can't say conclusively. But if that is true, I mean, it's a very, very, very heavy thing.
Yeah. A lot of people say interdimensional beings.
Right. I want to ask: are angels and demons, or how would you describe these beings?
You know, these are, again, I'm getting into the realm of conjecture, so I just want to say that flat out.
Entity.
But one thing I know for a dead certain fact, having seen it, is that there is good and evil, that we are being acted upon at all times. And I think every person can feel that in himself. I mean, there are moments when you are moved to do things that are much better than you actually are, and that are also more evil and destructive than you actually are. You are subject to forces from outside yourself. That is absolutely true. Now, we can argue about what they are, but every person in the room, if he's reflective, will tell you, yes, I know what you're talking about. And so there are forces that are not human, that do exist in a spiritual realm of some kind, that we cannot see, and that when you think about it, sort of make you think we live in an ant farm.
Yeah.
Being right? And that's
Absolutely.
that is real.
Yeah.
And it cuts off there. And I'm not a Tucker Carlson fan, listener, never have been. But he's been saying a lot of things that sound good. But where that's coming from, I have no clue. I'm always suspicious of any talking head out there, no matter what sign they align with, Mr. Horn. But I am curious your take why people like him, amongst other people out there, they're saying that aliens, these entities, the Greys, that these are demonic. Your thoughts?
Well, let's just be clear about it. Demons were invented by human beings. Whether it goes back to Eastern religions where they portray all sorts of creatures, the Catholic Church, I think, has been a big help to creating demons and devils.
Oh,
and all
yes.
of this. And they don't exist. There's no evidence for them. In the Talmud Manual, as a matter of fact, it is said, I think it's that Jesus cast out demons from these people here. And what's explained in the Talmud is that what the people of the time did not know, that their own psyches, own consciousness, could get so disturbed with various manifestations, mental illness of different kinds, and that this was not coming from imaginary beings. Now, I kind of, years ago, when I first saw Tucker Carlson, I thought to myself, this is a very intelligent guy. He's an interesting guy. And there's things he's said that I've actually agreed with. I think harsh criticisms he's leveled about this and that and other things. Maybe. As a matter of fact, Leighton Morris, the guy I referred to before from Redacted, a year ago in March, he was with Tucker Carlson, and he turned to him because they were speaking about, I think it was the Kennedy assassination. He said to him, well, I don't know how you'll feel about this, Tucker, but Billy Meier, the Swiss guy Billy Meier, predicted the assassinations of JFK and RFK when they would happen. And he predicted it 10 years ago, which is accurate. Published it. Told to him by these. And Tucker Carlson just sat and looked at him like this. And then Clayton didn't follow up on that. I guess he saw the blank look on Tucker Carlson.
Oh boy.
These are people that I would have liked to have gotten to, but
Yeah.
any attempts, anything that was getting close to getting to them was shot down, I guarantee. Because if Tucker Carlson starts talking about Billy Meier and he realizes that this evil alien entity, demonic bullshit, pardon me, is from his religious beliefs and what's been pounded into poor skull since he was a kid, bright as he is, um, he'd have to go, well, wait a minute, maybe I got to think this through. Let's see. If there's extraterrestrial, if there's aliens and they can, let's just say they were out there, grays coming here, gosh, they'd have to travel hundreds of light years or whatever. Why would they need to make treaties or contracts with our government when they can float people through walls supposedly and abduct them and do it? They don't need it.
And why would they need Tom DeLonge, by the way, too?
Why would they what?
Why would they also need Mr. Tom DeLonge?
They don't. Yeah, and it's like Lou Elizondo, who I called out as a phony, dishonorable piece of crap who's dishonored his own oath to the country to be an honorable person. He lied from day one. He got his book deal finally. Oh, that's great.
Hey, congrats, yes.
This is where do people get all the fanboys? Oh, he's so cool. He's a former. No, he's not former intelligence. There's no such thing as former intelligence. Very rare, actually. And he is an example of former intelligence operative. Dummies. So I have contempt for the stupidity of people. It's like, hey, you get slapped up aside your head. It'd be better than waking up realizing your country's been bombed or the terrorists, because you have such insane people sitting at the helm of government that they have terrorized people for so long in other countries who otherwise never attacked us. And they've sent people into our midst now for years through the last delusional clown with dementia that sat in there and said, open the floodgates, let anybody in, because a crazy woman in Germany started doing it. And now Billy told us some years ago how many sleepers were in this country.
And now they have buyer's remorse. This is true. Very much like those that were once very diehard, sycophantic fans for the sitting president.
Presidents are public servants. We forget it. They're supposed to carry through will of the people in accordance with the laws of the foundation of the country and all this other stuff. And then the Congress and all the rest of it. These people you can find few people. They're there, but they're few and far between who haven't been blackmailed into, being Israeli operatives or paid off for it. Where are the people of standing in a Democrat party that used to be the anti-war party who would go get our country out of here, impeach that guy? Have a spineless government. Being able to wage war doesn't take spine. It takes payoffs, intimidation, being cornered if you're a piece of crap president whose life is verging on being exposed as a pedophile and possibly even worse. You're weak people out there. You're weaklings. You're spineless. You stand for nothing. Wave your flags and your slogans. What are you going to do in your own lives? If you stand up in your own life, for yourself and your family, for truth and for justice and all this, more power to you. Can't send people in the street. That doesn't necessarily bode well. It will come to that in this country. That's part of the predictions. There will be riots in the streets. There will be civil wars and all the rest of it. But you see, that isn't necessarily the best way to go to change things, because you get more anarchy and you get more people there who are, kind of, what do they call them? These people, rabble rousers and dictators who are going to rise up and the order of the day, and they Mad Max, and it's been romanticized and sold to us, as you say, in movies, the violence and thrill of it all. Well, it didn't bode well for many civilizations that went down that road and couldn't get it onto the off ramp to civilize themselves, et cetera, et cetera. And nobody to be giving, I just find it's disgusting. The weakness, the moral weakness, substituting crap religion for real ethics and values, beliefs. Oh, I'm going to wear a Jesus fix, or I'm going to wear a Star of David, or I'm going to wear this or that, or the hats of this. Yeah, who cares? Don't let us be able to identify you through some kind of wardrobe or jewelry or anything. Well, I mean, doesn't it dawn on anybody that the symbol for Christianity is a man being tortured to death because he did what would Jesus do? Well, he got crucified for telling people to love each other, and we walk around celebrating and then eat of my body and drink of my blood, which he never said. That's nowhere in the cannibalistic cult stuff. Why do we think black magic stuff? Where did all this stuff come from? Oh, well, we can't be saying that. You unthinking sheep. What's wrong with you? Get your head straight. Get out of that stuff.
I just don't understand, Mr. Horn, how such a small place like Israel has had a stranglehold over our government for as long as they have. That's the reason why JFK is not alive.
One of them, oil barons, and I mean, his assassination. It was explained in the Meier material who did it and all the rest of that. But look.
Well, it was Israel. Let's just be honest.
It's not solely on Israel. If there are the CIA, there were operatives involved.
Well, it's a joint effort, but yes, it was by Mossad.
I saw in 1995. I saw that video that people have seen for a while. Guy Files, who was incarcerated in L.A. prison. Not L.A., Illinois prison, and claimed to have been one of the real assassins in the Meier case, and he was the most compelling. And it was, told Meier was explained to him it wasn't. Lee Harvey Oswald shot a gun, but he didn't kill Billy. Pardon me, he didn't kill JFK. He wasn't. There were other people involved. Wherever the influences came from, look, I have no love for the Zionist, contemptible and contemptuous people that are Zion Nazis. Not at all. I can't blame the Israelis for everything. They certainly got enough blood in their hands. What was it? The USS Liberty. And remember,
they've done a lot of things. Unfortunately, that's the problem, though. I know you can't blame them for everything, but they have been involved in a major big ones.
Look, the Mossad said their slogan was, "By deception thou shalt do war." They are the most devious. This Zionist thing is the most devious, shameless.
It's pretty dangerous.
Nothing. Billy, the man who was the co-discoverer, Talmud Emmanuel with Billy, 1964, on the outskirts of Jerusalem in this tomb, fled for his life after powerful religious people in Jerusalem found out he had some very valuable documents. He fled into, was Iraq? No, pardon me. He fled into Lebanon first, and he sequestered this document that he and Meier had discovered in the walls there. He sent Meier a chunk of the translation. That was the only part that survived. It was within 1 week that the Israelis came in and burned that village, just cut to the ground. This man and his family escaped into Iraq. Subsequently were machine gunned to death by the Mossad in Baghdad.
I believe it.
Material.
I believe it. I believe it. I mean, I've seen countless footage of Israeli soldiers opening fire on a lot of innocent people, time and time again. And furthermore, I've seen them also torture a lot of people on the.
It's said in prophecy section. I don't have it right. In the Talmud, when the destruction of Jerusalem comes, do not turn back to get your coat. The women who are bearing children everybody flee to the mountains. One stone will not have to. The state of Israel And there's a lot of, listen, there are lovely people there who don't agree. They happen to have been born there. They don't have to love everything. It isn't every Israeli, it certainly isn't every Jew, right?
Well, there's a lot of people that are protesting what's going on. They don't like Benjamin Netanyahu, who I believe is also, people voted for Donald Trump, but essentially they got Benjamin Netanyahu as the actual president, unfortunately.
Look, these things are unfortunately available for people to determine the truth about them pretty much. But the Israeli people should, they want to, that what they are tolerating with the, let's use Tucker Carlson's word, demonic murderers like Netanyahu,
Yahoo, yeah.
Netanyahu, yeah. This is sealing the fate of their people. It was sealed long ago because you see, there are universal laws, cause and effect, and it surpasses and supersedes everything. Every attempt to supersede cause and effect fails or makes it worse. The Israelis, the leader, here's one the Israelis don't even know, and Meier published it. Many people have heard about Abraham.
Right.
He was a black man. Israelis know that. Meier's published information. The true history of how the Israeli people came together, they were never solely a people. These were various groups of very suspect people who were brought together by an overlord, if you will. Jehovah was a very powerful human who came to the earth with others, advantage to rule over and get people under their control. This is so heretical to religions, all of them, that when people start reading what's in the Meier material and why they're trying to wake us up to what's happened to us, oh, it's up to us to get ourselves straight. Nobody can come and do it for us. It's not permitted. Instead, we empower these lunatics every 4 years here or there, or this one, decades and centuries of crazy politics and equally crazy religion, and here we are again at the end of times, as some people interpret.
Yes, the end of days.
Well, it's going to be some rough days and years and centuries.
And will we see that, by the way, Mr. Horn, as Meier given a prediction date of sorts for the audience? I'm sure they're wondering at home, are we going to see nukes anytime soon?
The timing of these things was not given. Instruction described in detail, some of it specifically what kind of weapons are used against us and us using against others, and weaponry as of 1987, when they foretold this clashing in this third world, that the United States and of America and Russia will have terrible weapons that are just in the developmental. This is why I am concerned that Trump might have access to, and maybe short of using nukes with Iran, which would be a big bad mistake, as it would be for Israel. And days ago, I remember when the talk was going around about Israel nuking, I said, I have a feeling that Putin has already called him and said, don't do that. We'll just wipe you off. You're not going to set the world on fire. We'll destroy you before you do that. That's my thinking. But listen, you can't put anything past anybody. There will, to answer your question, it will get to nuclear exchanges. It will get to the use of weather weapons also used again, coast to coast. Things that will happen. It's said in the prophecies.
This is what I'm worried about, by the way.
America will experience events that will be unbelievable to the people of the world. Beginning, the destruction of the WTC will be. Preceding that, it says the reason for this. America is turning the world against itself through its pursuit of globalization and control economically and everything else. In the Hanok prophecies there, it says, slowly but surely, countries will start to turn away, realizing the U.S. only wants to exploit them politically and economically. We now have Austria. What is it? Spain. What was the third country? Italy have now said to the U.S., you cannot fly over our airspace. You cannot drag us into this war. This is foretold in 1987. What is wrong with you people out there? Stop your fascination with bullshit from the government and UFOs and the phony people that are milking for every dollar it's worth. Oh, alien this and alien that and disclosure, and I've got this. Your country, your world is going to be set on fire.
And there's a good segue right now to interrupt you, Mr. Horn. I hate to interrupt you, my friend, but okay, so the latest person now also discussing these sort of things, and I never thought I would ever imagine this name, but that would be the former Republican Congressman, Mr. Matt Gaetz, now talking about a hybridization program.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Matt Gaetz wants to keep a lot of this distraction going away from any hint of all the things that he's done that he got busted for. Let's not talk about all my indiscretion. Aliens, hybrids, bring it on.
Here we go. Here's a clip. It is a 2-minute clip. I'm not sure if you've heard this, Mr. Horn, but I'm very interested to get your thoughts and opinions. Here we go.
I think the most important information will be the biologics that are not human that have been discovered. And like even some of the briefings that aren't classified just need to be out in the public. I mean, I had someone come and brief me who was in a military uniform, worked for the United States Army, that was briefing me on the locations of hybrid breeding programs where captured aliens were breeding with humans to create some hybrid race that could engage in intergalactic communication. An actual uniformed member of the United States Army briefed me on that.
Non-human biologics, interracial alien mating? What the F is going on? Look, wait a second. You had whistleblowers tell you this kind of thing? Can you please unpack that?
Yeah, I had a guy who was uniformed. He was a senior enlisted with the United States Army. Came into my office in Crestview, Florida, in a non-classified setting. I had members of my staff there, and what they explained is that the military ran a very secret program where aliens that were living were in forced breeding programs with humans that had been abducted from war zones and from even the caravans of migrants. Now, again, I didn't verify this, but what the whistleblower telling me is that there were like between 6 and 12 locations around the country where this happened. And what he wanted was a group members of Congress to all show up at the same time at all of these different locations so that any of those activities could not be moved. And of course, it's a physical impossibility to get members of Congress to simultaneously show up at like 8 locations at a time. That never occurred.
What do you mean non-human biologics? Like this?
Well, that was the testimony of David Grush.
Almost done here, Mr. Horn.
The House Oversight, which I joined, and the testimony was that in crashes of craft that had been recovered by the CIA and through a special program that the CIA had for crash recovery, that it wasn't just the hard materials, it was also biologics, but that they couldn't identify a human.
Okay, so we know all the stories by now. We've been around the block many times, Mr. Horn, so we've heard all these sort of radical things. Very fascinating. I'm not completely discarding it. I think it's all fascinating. I'm entertained by it. However, but Matt Gaetz, though, of all people, though, jumping on the bandwagon, I find that rather interesting, Mr. Horn.
Figures. Who interviewed him?
That's a great question. I'm not exactly sure who that was. It doesn't exactly. The Benny Show. Benny Johnson. I don't know who that is.
I don't know. Meier spoke about the crashes and the surviving and the dead so-called aliens, which were androids, and they are sexless. They couldn't get it on with anybody if they tried, dead or alive. This is more, Congress, well, we couldn't get everybody together. Of course not. So here you've got a guy who apparently needs all the good press to appeal to the brain dead population who can't figure out that the people that he's electing to govern him, psychopaths, he or she are going to rush to the polls dutifully every whatever number of years and put them in power, whether it's local or national.
Right.
Of course, aliens, of course, are interbreeding with us for intergalactic communication. We can't tell the truth to each other.
I wonder who's saying that, by the way.
Jesus.
So was it, I mean, for years we've heard of these hybrid programs through the My Lab trauma people, all kinds of, all the UFO people have known and heard about these sort of programs. So I'm just wondering, was this info sort of agent out there in these people's minds, grifting, of course, Mr. Horn?
I would say, since I don't have direct knowledge, I would say we have all seen sufficient information. Some of it certainly can be considered some evidence.
Some compelling stuff, yeah.
Mind control program. This country is about controlling everybody's mind. This population is going to be biochipped. You know, Elon Musk's satellite. I mean, folks, you have got no idea because you get lost.
Well, I mean, Mr. Horn, I mean, back just a few years ago, you saw everybody comply with the government. We won't have to go deeply into that, but just a few years ago, Mr. Horn, a lot of people complied and did what the government wanted to do, and they controlled every single thing. So yes, I think people are more than willing to abide by the government and do what the television, what the radio, what celebrities are telling you what to do. So yes, they will take the any kind of chip that they are instructed to do, Mr. Horn. Unfortunately, that's the society we live in, and 75 to 80% of the society is brainwashed, Mr. Horn. You know that.
Oh, I'm out of it.
Throughout your whole life, of course.
But yes, brainwashing has been done in and by this country for decades.
That's right.
People who have been harmed by these programs can't dismiss it all. Some people just are nuts on their own and they think they, whatever,
Yes.
but put nothing past these people.
I
Put
agree.
nothing.
No, I agree.
Meier was writing 2017 about there is a coming attempt by the elite. There will be attempts to exterminate entire peoples.
Oh, yes.
All sorts of stuff coming. And Billy doesn't get involved in conspiracy theories. There's no theory. When he told me, in effect, there's a coming financial global crash, your dollar's going to crash. That's
great.
what's these wars. The petrodollar here isn't just Israel. This is going to affect Israel because of the dollar in the U.S. and it's going to affect everybody. And BRICS, these countries are getting rid of the dollar and they are aligning with each other, and we're trying to stop it. Billy Meier said, "You might as well wholesale paper money."
And by the way, Mr. Horn, do you think there's also possibility of Israel also double crossing us essentially and turning on us and us having to do what we have to do in a conflict with Israel? Would that ever be a possibility?
I don't see that. In the prophecies, they speak about the warriors from the east coming in. Blood will be high as. And let's see the other thing. And Billy also, in a discussion back in the 80s, talking with them about the time will come when the Arabs will come together and attack and eliminate Israel, and this threat from the east, warriors from the east, which I think refers to China and Russia.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but and when it said when the destruction of Jerusalem comes, do not turn back. Get anything. Pregnant women should get out of there. That's nuclear. And one of the things I wrote about 20 years ago, and I recently reposted on my blog, was with Israel possessing, according to said for a long time, many, perhaps a couple hundred nuclear weapons. what happens if these Iranian missiles at a certain point start hitting nuclear stuff and spreading contamination that way throughout Israel? And I mean, this is a mess. We are in a time when things are beginning of really dramatic changes. We haven't seen anything
It's coming.
yet. Yeah, and I'm not a cheerleader for destruction. I think it's just pathetic. The weak, spineless people of the world and of this country that didn't get rid of these crazy leaders, not just here with a piece of crap sitting in the Oval Office. How about, certainly in France, Canada, England, many countries, Australia, where these crazy laws get enacted and their weapons get taken away, and assisted suicide. This is the craziest thing. Billy foretold it specifically. And hey, the people will start making a business out of suiciding other people. And Canada, Australia, they're taking people who are just maybe a little sick or a little depressed, and they're helping them to get out of the world for money, of course. Do people really not know what a cesspool world we have allowed to overflow pollution of consciousness, conscience, principles, and values? Everything is entertain me, make me famous. I want a lot of money. I want an android robot and the latest this and that. Pathetic creatures. You know what really gets me? When I look at the so-called influencers, what is this about? What have any these people accomplished in their lives? Just becoming influencers and famous? Pardon me. I mean, I've known a lot of people who accomplished resumes really long, and I have one myself. What is this influencers? What have you done? I don't need your stupidity in my face. So it's all a matter of choice. And yet we try to make a difference. People like you to, hey, if you want on the way out, if you want to play part of my trailer to my new film, I wouldn't object to it, because we've got the foretelling of all of this that we're in right now. And some of that footage we shot a couple of few ago from Meier's Prophecies, even earlier. This has been foretold, you people. And you just like deer in the headlights. The next thing's coming. Oh,
that's pretty much society, though, Mr. Horn. The lights are on, but no one's home. That pretty much describes a huge majority of the country, Mr. Horn. As long as they get home from work and they're able to watch their favorite show after work, and they're eating their tea dinners and relaxing. That's it. There's really nothing else to think about.
Well, I'll tell you something. I like everybody else, we search through videos to see if there's anything we get. Watching videos of young Chinese children learning how to fix car engines, cooking their own food, making the building blocks literally for construction. Children in China learning things that even our high schoolers and maybe even most college courses aren't doing. And knowing, there's a 40s maybe.
Well, we love the child labor, by the way, by the Chinese.
They're not looking like they're forced labor whatsoever.
Well, the ones that we like are the forced labor, by the way.
They are doing these things. They're proud of it. They're willing. Yeah.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying, here in America, we love child labor.
Oh, well, that's different.
Yes.
And there is stuff about China we don't love. There's horrific things going on with.
Oh no, of course.
Yeah, they're tough people. And in Russia, Billy wrote about it, I think in 1949, The Great Bear Comes.
Well, these are a different breed of people, that's for sure. They're a very different society.
Both of those societies, these are cultures.
Yes.
As Iran, Persia, these are cultures. They're not trendy happenings that changed every 2 years with the latest.
That's a different breed of people is what he's saying, folks.
Well, people who didn't destroy themselves, we're trying to destroy cultures. This is what this country does. Even the English language, it was intended. protection to wipe out the interest in other more complex languages like German, which are highly specific and highly precise. No, people, I guarantee you don't know our real history. You don't know the history of other people. I'm there. I can't say I'm a great student of all history, but I've learned more from reading histories of these countries. And the Russians, the Russians for 400 or more years have had to defend against invasions coming from all sides of them. They are a tough. The Chinese are a tough people. The Koreans are tough people. We are just brutal. And they've got the brutality. These are not pussycat societies. So it's not that, go live in Russia, or go live in. We're talking about if we cared to develop culture, we could learn more from other countries about how that's done. We could learn other countries. We could start to, lost cause. It ain't going to happen.
At this point, no. I mean, everyone's pretty much hard pressed in their own sort of demise, unfortunately, and that's pretty much everything you got to know. Especially when the all politicians have sold us down the river a long time ago, and we have all been subjected to the military complex system. But yes, go ahead.
People voted them in. There, it's like there used to be people who stood up. Also, you talked about our, the elders, let's say in society, still around, who've been around for a long time, and they started ruling. Yeah, there were, but there were a lot. Remember, Frank Sinatra sang a song called My Way. In 1981, I'd written a song called I'll Be My Own Hero. I was trying to find a way to get it, Sinatra. There's a guy named Anthony Robbins, Tony Robbins. He used to have me come and sing that song at his firewalks. I was looking for somebody to believe in, someone to save. I don't need nobody to come and save me. And that was I'll be my own hero. I'll make my own magic. And that's what I think people, if we learn how to do that, we can come together with other people that are self-empowered, but that live according to real values, not slogans. Dummies, get your slogans. Values, real values. Oh, I'm a Christian, I'm a Jew, I'm a Muslim. Yeah, okay, not partisan politics, not partisan religions, true eternally. Not fear, beliefs, not fear-based beliefs, not beliefs in superior origins and destinies over other people, chosen people bullshit, or the one true prophet, and we're going to come and. That was never what the Quran was supposed to be about. That's a corruption of the that Muhammad had, and Myers published things that Muhammad did as well.
Absolutely, and unfortunately, religion has always played a huge role in all war, essentially, and it's a terrible thing. Yes, no disrespect to anybody's religion out there.
What they want.
Yeah, people are free to believe whatever they want, but unfortunately, these sort of conflicts aren't going to be going away anytime soon, sadly, and we might all destroy each other because of God.
Yeah, God's. Well, look, I mean, I guess some people will say, "Wow, these guys have been griping for an hour and a half or what." Look, if you've tuned in, if you're still with us, for UFOs and all that, this was meant to get your attention. The eye candy was to get your attention. Not for you to chase after lights in the sky and think that aliens are going to either abduct you or sit around or channel through you or any of that crap. It came to warn us, advise us, you're in trouble. You're not getting out of it unless you profoundly change. And that's what they've tried to kill Meier 28 times about. Well, if they were really good shots, see, that's the mentality, and I've gotten that in emails. Well, you see, if I was doing, that's the American mentality.
Amazing.
I'm going to stand against all these. Hey, we're going to have to defend because they're coming, and they're already here. We must have waited.
We sure did, and my goodness, Mr. Horn, I could easily talk to you even longer, but gracious with your time, my friend. I really enjoyed this one. I've been looking forward to talking to you for quite some time, and Mr. Horn, I feel like we barely scratched the surface, so I will definitely have to reach out to you way sooner than before, and bring you back on so we could continue this conversation. Mr. Horn, I hope you had a great time, and definitely plug anything you'd like, or leave us with some. Well, do both. Leave us with some final words and plug whatever you'd like.
Well, we have a new film mentioned called Singularly Authentic, Definitive Proof of Ongoing Contacts with UFO, Space, and Time. Definitive legal standard proof. Now, I know it won't interest you if you can't get all excited about some secret disclosure thing, folks, but if you want some truth, you might want to get that. They Fly blog is our website. We have Billy Meier's books. Can't get them too many places. Billy Meier's books. He's written over 60. We could learn a few things from them. Beautiful. So I'm grateful, and perhaps if we do come on, we certainly vented and complained enough, but the teaching that's involved here and what this is about in Meier's life and what they've tried to bring to us to wake us up, it's different stuff. It's not the hellfire and brimstone, despite all the concerns about plenty of hellfire coming. It's about how to think. Love, peace, freedom, harmony, how to get to that. And frankly, folks, so with that, I say thank you, my friend, Mr. Dan. We have gotten together again, and I look forward to doing it. And feel free, invite any UFO experts you know to have a little chat. 3 of us, a little chat, and just how expert is it.
Absolutely. We will definitely do that. Michael, it's been a pleasure to have you back on the program. And speaking of which, I'll leave you with just some funny stuff. But your friend, Mr. Michael Shermer, who was starting to become a regular here, we were building a good rapport until I told him about Billy Meier, and I told him that we should have a sit down. He got very irate, and now we no longer talk. So we'll try again with somebody else.
Yes, there must be somebody out there. Try Avi Loeb.
We could make that. Maybe we can make that happen.
That would be nice. I've reached out to him. I've sent him tons of info. Pardon me. Years. He's selling books. Maybe he'd like to have a conversation about something real, Virgin.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of the program, and I will see you on the other side.
Pleasure.
And there he goes, boys and girls. That was the American media representative for the Billy Meier UFO contacts and a veteran of the program. We have always appreciated Mr. Horn being here. We very, very much appreciate him being here. theyflyblog.com. Of course, we shall return with you, and I do thank you for hanging out with us here tonight, wherever you are on this island Earth. My name, in fact, is Michael Decon, and I shall see you on the other side. With that said, the world is a mysterious place, and life itself is a mystery. Until next time, good night.